Hey guys, welcome back to another video and episode 2 of Chai TV. So grab your favorite beverage, and today I'm having a gorgeous geisha, which is a green tea from T2. As I said, I don't particularly enjoy having chai tea, but I really like green tea at the moment. 唔該，你識唔識講廣東話? Now that is a question that I get occasionally when I'm at work. So in this episode of Chai TV, I'm going to answer a question that I sometimes get at work. I don't get it a lot because of the area where I work. Now, just to give you a little bit of my origin story, kind of like book 0 of a comic book series. Book 1 is where the adventure starts, but book 0 is the hero's backstory. I was born in Hong Kong and I lived there till I was around about 8 years old, and then I came to Australia. So basically I have the equivalent of probably year 1 Cantonese. I can't write any Chinese. I probably could have written a little bit when I was living in Hong Kong, but certainly I can't do that now, except for my name and some numbers. I can read a little bit of Chinese, but not very much. But I am conversant in Cantonese. Now, I don't know a lot of the jargon, so when I get asked this at work from a patient who says, can I speak Cantonese? I can definitely have a conversation with them. I can definitely help them, but I can't necessarily explain procedures to them because I don't understand the little intricacies. I don't know, for example, how to say vascular angioplasty in Cantonese. I can tell them that a doctor is going to stick tubes up into your groin, into one of the blood vessels and stuff like that, but I can't deal with the specific terminology. I personally find it quite difficult to learn new languages. I am pretty much conversant in only 2, so Cantonese and English. I could probably curse as well as most people in a number of languages, including French, German, Spanish, Italian, Turkish, Arabic, Japanese, Korean, Gaelic, Tagalog. I probably can curse in all those languages, but I can only fully be conversant in those 2 languages I mentioned. And sometimes I get asked to help out by talking to a patient at work who is not able to speak English, and I'm often asked whether I can speak Chinese. Now, it's a very broad term, and speaking Chinese is not the right thing to ask because Cantonese and Mandarin is by far the most prevalent language in China, and Cantonese in fact is only spoken in a small number of cities, mainly in Hong Kong and some of the more southern areas of China. But there is so much difference between the 2 that I can't speak much Mandarin at all. I can only speak a few words. I can't understand any Mandarin conversation. So being able to speak Cantonese does not equal to being able to understand or speak Mandarin. Now, personally, I find Asian languages much more difficult to kind of learn the basics of compared to some of the European languages. For starters, the characters are different. So, for example, in Spanish, you can kind of work out what they're saying a lot of the time because at least the letters you can understand, and some of the words resemble the words that you speak in English. But in Chinese, especially, and I'm talking about Cantonese now because it's the only language I speak, there is a significant difference and it has no resemblance to English, which number one makes it hard. And the other thing is Cantonese is a very tonal language. So it's really easy to say the wrong thing by just altering the tone of the word a little bit. And that's something really hard for people to grasp. And if I was to be trying to learn Cantonese for the first time, I think that would be the most difficult aspect. So there is a big difference between 1 being fully conversant in Cantonese to 2 being able to speak a little bit of Cantonese to make it through as a tourist, and 3 is to be able to use Cantonese as an effective communication tool when you're speaking to patients who are from a Chinese background who do not speak English. So when it's eventually safe to do so in this current climate, if you're planning on going on a vacation to a place like Hong Kong, number 1 is you probably don't need to be able to speak Cantonese to make it there anyway. The reason being that most people who are under the age of say 60 or 70 are probably able to understand English, and everything comes in both Chinese and English. So if you take the subway or if you take the bus or the tram or anything like that, all the signs are a combination of English and Cantonese, and also any voice announcements in public transport are also both in English and Cantonese, so you shouldn't have any problems with that. If you have a desire to try and mingle with the locals a bit and try and absorb the entire atmosphere of being in Hong Kong, you probably want to learn a few Chinese words. And there are loads of apps and books and stuff which are going to be able to teach you how to do that. So basically when you get off the plane at the airport, you're going to want to go and find the MTR, which is Day Tit in Cantonese, and you want to my fee, which means you want to buy a ticket. And for example, if you're going straight from the airport to Disneyland, which is Dixie Lei Lot Yun, you're going to want to catch the MTR all the way there, and you're going to want to my fee, so buy tickets there, and then you're going to have fun. So there's little terms. It's not that hard to kind of just muddle your way through with just a little bit of English, a little bit of Cantonese, and you can say stuff like "幾多錢," which means how much, or stuff like "唔該,你可唔可以話俾我聽個廁所喺邊度?" That means, can you please show me where the toilet is? Kind of things that are not that difficult to learn if you choose to, but as I said, you don't have to. Now, if you're a healthcare worker and you're in an environment where you're trying to speak to a patient who doesn't speak English and you wanted to learn some Cantonese words to help that can be a little bit more difficult. I don't know any of the actual medical jargon, but I can help patients get around the water and navigate basic things like hygiene needs and stuff like that. But obviously, if you're not fluent in Cantonese, depending on where you work, anyhow, you may not be able to assist in obtaining consent with non-English speaking patients, but it may help to explain procedures to patients. But if you're not completely fluent in Cantonese, you cannot risk it. You may use the wrong terminology. Just leave it to professionals, and there's usually a professional interpreter that you can get hold of when you're at work anyhow. For those who are interested, some of the little basic words that you can use in a healthcare setting which might help your patients are things like tong, which means pain, ji tong yo, which means pain relief medications, chi so or sai sao gan, which means a bathroom, xiu bin means doing a wee, and da bin means doing a poo. Things like that are helpful. Things like hao hot, which means thirsty, hungry, which is to or. These are little things that will help a patient feel a little bit more at ease, because it's not easy going into a place when you're not feeling well and nobody understands what you're saying. Other things like an fan means that they want to go to sleep, dong means cold, yit means hot, and words like dian hua means telephone, dian si, which means television, geido dim, which means what time is it. So these are little things that can help. It does reassure the patient that there is a little bit of communication possible. In terms of what I was saying earlier, Cantonese is very tonal, and this is kind of a little bit of the fun part of this video, where I just want to go through a few words, and I just want to explain the importance of being able to say words in the right tone, because being off just by a little bit makes a dramatic difference to the meaning of the word, and you don't want to get this wrong. So I just want to give you an example. Listen really carefully and see if you can actually hear the subtlety or the difference. Now, I'm going to say 4 words in Cantonese, and all 4 of them mean something entirely different. Have a listen to see if you can tell the difference. Pay, 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 pay. Let me say that again. So, pay, 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 pay. They all sound kind of the same. It's got the p sound, and the thing is, they're completely different words. So the first one, pay, means blanket. Pei means skin. Pei means leather. And pei means a bit of flatulence or farting, if you want to say. So they're completely different words. They sound pretty much the same. So it's pei, 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 and pei. You got to be really careful with the tone. And if you use it inappropriately, it just sounds weird. And just like in every language, there's always more than one way to say something. So, for example, in Cantonese, if you want to say thank you, there is mgoi and then there's doje. Now, they both mean thank you, but they're used under different contexts. So when you mgoi, it's kind of like if somebody opens a door for you and holds it open, you say thank you, that's mgoi. And doje means an appreciation for receiving something like a gift. So if you get a Christmas present, you say doje, you don't say mgoi when somebody gives you a present. Other examples is like if you need to go to the bathroom. In Australia, you can say I need to go to the bathroom, the toilet, the restroom. There's some other more colloquial ones which I don't want to use, but in Cantonese there's sai sao gan, which is kind of the real formal one, chi so, which is kind of the more slang one. And some Cantonese phrases do make sense. So for example, if you count to 20 in English, it's like, you know, the basic 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But when you get to 11, it kind of doesn't make sense. Or 12, 13, 14, 15 kind of makes sense. But in Cantonese, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then 11 is 10 plus 1. So that makes more sense than saying 11. But that's just one of those things. And 12 is like 10 plus 2. 13 is 10 plus 3. So it actually makes more sense in that sense, I guess, compared to English. And one of the things that I find really entertaining sometimes I know it's silly, but I do find entertaining is some of the literal translations for some of the words. And it makes no sense. It's so ridiculous that it's kind of funny. For example, bathroom, when you say 洗手間, and 洗手間literally means a place where you go to wash your hands. And the Cantonese term for a child, which is 小朋友, literally means small friend. And the familiar term 你好嗎 literally means are you good? 收音機 literally means a machine which allows you to receive noise. 電腦 means electric brain, which is computer. And whilst I think of it, listen to this as well. So can you tell the difference between the word go in 蘿蔔糕 and 好糕? So the go in 蘿蔔糕 means cake and 好糕 means tall. So it sounds exactly the same, but the words mean completely different. Just in conclusion, Cantonese is a really interesting language. It's very tonal, it's very loud sometimes, and some people think that everybody's arguing in Hong Kong, but they actually aren't. They're just speaking animated. Some of the words are quite harsh and it feels like they're swear words and they're not also. But it is a really cool language to learn, and depending on where you live, it can be a very useful language. So that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. It's kind of a bit of a fun one, and this has been episode 2 of Chai TV. So if you like it, please leave me a thumbs up. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time in another video. Have a great weekend and try not to get drowned in the rain that we've had. And it's been raining for the last 2 weeks and it's going to rain forever. And I'll catch you next time in another video. Bye. See you. Bye. So this part of the video, because there's some colloquial Chinese terms that just sound really weird when you directly translate them to English. Things like crazy, which means qi xin, which means kind of like sticky or adhesive electrical line. Another word for crazy is bak qi, which means white, sticky. Zhongfeng, which means kind of like having a stroke, means you scored wind, which makes no sense whatsoever. Pok gai, which is really not a nice term to use, so please don't use it. It literally means you want to trip over in the street and fall over and hit yourself on the head or something. So that's not a nice thing to say, but it's literally the translation of it. And finally, just out of interest, are you aware that there are some things that you would never give to somebody who's from an Asian country? And there are things like, for example, you never give somebody an alarm clock. You also don't buy, I don't understand this one, but you don't buy shoes on Chinese New Year. I never really got it explained to me why you shouldn't buy shoes. You can buy boots apparently, but you can't buy shoes. It's kind of just like the Asian version of not walking under a ladder or not opening an umbrella inside the house. So that's pretty much it. I don't have anything more for you today. See you later. Hope you liked it. See you next time. Bye.